Well, as promised, Manisha Gupta joins in to take us through a very interesting discussion. Manisha.
Thank you so much for that, Nigel. Well, yes, a couple of days to go for the budget, and agriculture is expected to take, priority this time around as well. The rural consumption, growth, employment are some of the buzzwords which have caught attention. We have seen a decline in all of that. So expectation is that we could be looking at higher allocations in case of agriculture this time around as well. And while, of course, the government has been making a lot of structural changes in sense of policies, what really has been the report card? What can we expect here on yet again? To have that conversation on, we are now joined by Mr. Siraj Chaudhry, who's MD and CEO at NCML. Siraj, hi, good to have you. First of all, a lot was announced in the previous budget as well. So when you look at that report card, what would you say has materialized on ground implementation? How would you rate all of that?
So I would say that a lot of it is work in progress, but there are a number of areas where I think there have been discoveries of things not being as easy to implement, or some what I would say structural flaws in some of the plans. So that have not actually got the full impact. And just to elaborate further on what you've just said, we have a whole lot of schemes that have been rolled out. I mean, if you look at everything, you would want to believe that if everything laid out there is implemented well, life would be fine for the Indian farmers and the consumers. But that is not happening. So, and 2 years ago, there was a lot in the budget, but I don't think we probably made progress more than 25-30% in most of the things.
Oh, Siraj, when it comes to agri-credit, agri-financing, warehousing receipts, cold storages, value chain, a lot of work has been done in this direction as well. There have been lots of schemes, sub-headers that we've seen coming from the government. What is the situation right now, and how much more would you expect in these areas especially?
So I think these are areas which, frankly speaking, a lot has not been done. Now that I look at some of these things closely, I think credit to the small trader, to the farmer, is actually getting more difficult. I mean, today banks are very reluctant to do collateral management. Agri warehousing, yes. Today, unfortunately, with the stocks that FCI is carrying, what we have is not enough. And I think there are efforts being made, but at current levels of returns on capital, and more importantly, due to lack of capital for funding such large infrastructure projects, and that in, say, agriculture warehousing, it's getting increasingly difficult to find people who want to fund that. So I think this is a space which is actually building up to a problem situation going forward.
Siraj, a couple of things like technology and connecting mandis via the eNAM portal is something that the government talks about on every budget. We also are looking at higher allocation in sense of monies for agriculture also. So yes, as you said, there is a lot of stuff in process, and we could be perhaps hearing more schemes as well. But if you were to chalk out the plan for the finance minister when it comes to agriculture and financing, warehousing, growth, ensuring that there is a boost to that, what would you list out as your top 3 or 5 suggestions there?
So one is that I would say that some of these schemes which have been whether it's PM, the insurance scheme, the Fasal Bima, the Krishi, the Kisan, the FPOs, the eNAM. There was this whole scheme on Operation Greens, or tomato, onion, and potato. Increasing crops under the MSP under 22 for 22 crops. I think all these have been announced in isolation. I mean, there's a need to connect the dots, and I don't think anyone is really doing that. So these are all nice schemes. Some places they're getting implemented well, and most of the places they're probably not getting that traction. So I think getting that organized is important, because otherwise we can keep talking about these things. I think some of the early my sort of suggestions would be in getting the farmer to the market, because today we have an MSP system which is getting more and more grain produced, which we don't know what to do with. And so if we want the farmer to move away from these grains, we have to create more conducive market conditions. And I would start with saying investing more in the mandi infrastructure, allowing better facilities for drying, testing. I mean, those are the places. I'm getting a little micro, I know.
Yeah.
But the point is that we have to start at the base to say that, okay, how does the farmer get his produce to the market if he dares to produce stuff that he cannot take it to FCI?
Fair point.
So that's one. Similarly, storage counts part of that. I mean, I would recommend that, some of these storage places should be converted into mandis. I mean, large organizations or even government organizations can convert those spaces into mandis just to get the facilities up. Similarly, basic tax stuff, which is like storage for GST. GST, which is, there's no GST on storage, but all the services related to storage have GST. So
Right.
In effect, you're actually taking up the cost of storage because there's no input credit for. So you might as well impose 5% GST on the storage facility. Then similarly, in the insurance scheme, I'm talking very micro because there's so much said at the macro level that we can keep talking about they're all nice sounding plans.
Yeah.
But we need
Siraj,
to know how to implement them well.
Absolutely. But Siraj, you actually chalked down. Yeah. You've actually
subsidy is another big issue.
Well, yes, Siraj, but you've actually chalked down some very, very important points here, which we are hoping that the budget really would take over. So that, of course, is coming in as top recommendations for budget coming in from NCML.
Okay, all right. I think we have Ramco's numbers that are flashing for you on